inside the NBA, going to the mothership in ABC. How did this happen?
So 3 weeks ago, Jimmy Pitaro, the chairman of ESPN, called Luis Silberwasser, who is the counterpart at TNT Sports, and he said to him essentially, "You have a problem that I think I can solve, and you can solve one of my problems." ESPN's problem has been that they have not had, a good enough pre and post game show around the NBA. They've tried to for a long time with a million different combinations to be as good as inside the NBA. They never could quite do it. They had some good shows over the years, but never good enough. And so, with the new packages coming along, TNT Sports has finalized an agreement with the NBA, after they were suing them. And so what happens inside the NBA? It could be on TNT Sports. But the little thing that people don't realize about these shows is that they're really only as successful as the games they're around, right? Like ESPN's ratings a lot of times with their pregame show was higher than TNT's ratings, which I think would surprise people. But the quality of, especially with Barkley, who was on your air all the time, he's the best ever, in my opinion. Ernie Johnson's a tremendous host. Shaq has gotten much better, and Kenny Smith's a good, you can shoot the three when it gets kicked out to him in terms of their grouping. And so it made sense for ESPN to bring them in. Countdown goes to their number two show. TNT gets about 25 college basketball and football games from the Big 12, kind of lower tier games. They need inventory. So a win, but especially for ESPN.
But I'm worried about the ESPNification of this. Does ESPN try to come in and say, hey, you know what we're thinking? And that usually doesn't go well.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, Dan. I think that, and I wrote a column on The Athletic that's up there right now. This is the Jimmy Pitaro era. And if you look at his playbook, Peyton Manning, he wants Peyton Manning. Hey, Peyton, you can work from home or your friend's garage on Mondays and make Monday Night Football. He wants Joe and Troy for Monday Night Football. Obviously, money was the big thing there, but they were going to get broken up. Troy was kind of on the out with Fox. They got to stay together. Pitaro did that. McAfee's show, you can do it from Indianapolis. We'll license the show. There's a similar arrangement. I think that's the Pitaro playbook. I mean, if I'm a producer there, I'm kind of saying if I'm in Bristol, that you know it well, you're kind of like, well, what are we doing? Like, we can't get this right. The big boss keeps outsourcing our programming. That's not a good sign, especially for the big shows. But it's not the same Bristol. I've said this before. I refrain from it from this column, but Jimmy Pitaro is a huge Yankee fan. He's kind of the George Steinbrenner of sports media right now. He's got the most money to play with, or at least the most money that his company is willing to play with. Obviously, these tech companies have more money, and he's going out and getting what he wants, especially in terms of the on-air people.
Any guarantees given? Barkley is 61. He's got a 10-year deal that he's only, a couple of years into. That's a big chip of how long is Charles going to be there? How important is he to this deal?
Yeah, I've been told there are stipulations. I don't know exactly what they are. I mean, the big one is Shaq is unsigned. He's told people that he wants to stay. He's on board, but he has even more leverage. If an Amazon or NBC says, you know what, let's kind of put a hole in this plan for ESPN, they could come and give Shaq, big money or bigger money than TNT would. But I think he does want to stay. And do these other networks as NBC or Amazon want to build it around Shaq. I think they're all very comfortable there. But look, Barkley's the show. We can talk about formats. We could talk about everything. You put Charles Barkley on any of these shows. If he had moved over just to Countdown, Malik Andrews is hosting, you have Stephen A., whatever, it would be a really good show because Charles is that good. He's got the credentials of one of the great players of all time, willing to say anything at any time. And, anybody who I only know him a little bit, but well enough, but people who really know him well, great guy, just a natural person. And so I think you add all those things. And then Ernie does a great job. What Ernie does so well, Dan, and I know you appreciate because you're very good at this as well, but those guys say some crazy stuff, right? They go after San Antonio women. They go after this. They go after Ernie recognizes it right away. Doesn't make it obvious that he's like, I'm going to take the air out of this issue a little bit, and makes it so kind of voice of reason and kind of lowers the temperature. So to answer your question, I think ESPN, we've seen it with McAfee. They're kind of hands off. It's, they maybe could be a little more hands on because I don't know if McAfee works on linear TV, works on YouTube. But with this show, I really think it will be the same show. I think they will rip on ESPN all the time, but good naturedly. And I think it's fun. Like it's not as much an NBA show as it is just a fun. We've been hanging with these guys for a long time, which is what you really want. I mean, you look at NFL Sunday on Fox, similar arrangement.